I'm late. I just don't give.
Bro.
Hey, yo. Rocking with the best known unknown podcast on the internet. It's LATe2Work, now live with episode 35. Nice round number. It's always good when that comes. I feel like we got a lot to get into. Those are our best episodes. As always, it's your boy Money Mitch, aka King Lear, aka the Mexican Messiah, aka Daddy Longstroke, the motherfucking Clitoris Wrangler, aka Spike Francis of the podcast Pope, aka the light skinned Lord of the Flies, aka the dreadhead nigga in your lobby, aka your everyday entrepreneur. You can find me at Mitch Gaines with a Y, because I'm a little bit gay, on all your preferred social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you want to get into. I'm here rocking with my right hand man, the funniest man in Rhode Island. It's
only Chris Allen, the young OG, the Black Hay Moody, Sweet James Jones Jr., Ohio's very own, man, Midwest best, Midwest half.
Yeah, is that your OVO, Ohio's very own? Like, you gonna get like an owl tattoo?
For Cleveland, it'd be like a fucking crow or something like that.
Pigeon.
Yeah, pigeon with a syringe.
Yo, that's crazy.
A black mile and a wave cap on the pigeon.
I also like that now when we do video, like all the listeners can tell which one of us smokes weed and which one of us doesn't, because you got all your shit memorized. I'm sitting here staring at my shit. One of these days you're gonna realize the transition. I'm gonna be professional, but until then,
I'm used to going on stage and just remembering. So it's like,
do you intro yourself like that now? Do you do your AKs or shows?
No. At 8 o'clock, man. I'm just like, I just give my name and
promise me when you do a big enough stage, you'll let me host and intro you. And I'll do all your AKs.
Oh, there's no doubt,
like hype
man.
Shit.
I can't wait to.
That's gonna be hilarious.
I literally just can't wait to like be at a position where I can just go on stage and just do shit for as long as I want and riff and shit like that. Like you're always on a clock. You're always have to have everything tight. But like what Dave does, where he just goes to places and riffs for like 3 hours, man, that's a dream.
That must be amazing.
That's how you get dope material, when you can just go riff for 3 hours and tighten that shit to what works in 1 hour. Shit, get out of here, man. Give me that opportunity.
I know we had some other stuff on the docket, but culture-wise, there's a situation that came up in comedy that I always feel like I have to bring these things to you and get your comedic professional opinion.
Yeah, no doubt.
Did you hear about this shit with Amy Schumer this past week?
No.
She hosted SNL?
When she what?
She hosted SNL.
Yeah, I saw it, and I usually watch it when comedians host, but I'm not the biggest fan of Schumer. But
that's fair. That's why you're a good person to ask for this. So I don't know if you heard or not. So apparently she comes into the city or whatever. She obviously is like workshopping, like the monologue needs to like get up some places. Mm-hmm. You're familiar with Caroline's, obviously.
Yeah.
They do like their showcase series where they let like a up and coming comedian like headline. They do like their full 45 an hour, whatever it is. A lot of like friends and family come out. It's kind of like one of those in the New York comedy scene. It's like a a check mark moment. On the rise there, right? And so it's kind of like a special setting. What I mean? A lot of people who you've come up with are kind of there. Like it's a nice kind of thing. So Amy Schumer shows up to Caroline's. And, comes to the hostess. I guess the hostess has no fucking clue who Amy Schumer is, which is, first off, hysterical.
That's crazy.
She's like, well, I don't have to tell you, we don't have any tables. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
She's like, yeah, let me speak to a manager. So manager comes out, obviously knows who Amy Schumer is. And Amy Schumer's like, hey, like, I need a workshop, like, my monologue, do you mind if I get up? And she's like, hey, listen, like, I get it, but this is, like, a thing we do here. Like, this isn't, like, a show we can interrupt for you. Like, sorry, but, you can get up after him if you want to wait for a while, like, go somewhere else. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
So she's like, all right, cool, no problem. This is where I can't believe how shitty Amy Schumer is. She goes and like hangs out with a bunch of the comedians who are there who like know this guy. Learn his name, Brandon. I forget his last name. I'd butcher it, but we should shout him out. We'll share his podcast or something. But Brandon something. She makes nice and then shouts out from the crowd, "Hey Brandon, it's me, Amy Schumer. Do you mind if I get on stage for 10 minutes?"
Wow.
And like, what are you gonna do, right? Like, it's Amy fucking Schumer.
And the crowd was probably like, yeah, let her up.
But yes and no, because it's like, most of these people are here for like this showcase, right? Like, this is like people.
Oh, so the manager says something, it said that we're doing this showcase, and then whoever's doing the showcase, she shouts his name out.
Yeah, like while he's on stage during his set. Like, he's like 22 minutes in.
Wow.
And like, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean?
You can't be like, F no.
And so she gets on stage. I guess she kind of bombed because it's like none of her material. Yeah, she's workshopping shit. I'm sure it's not great stuff anyway. And it's a room you just pissed off 90% of because these are all friends of the comedian you just cut off.
Yeah.
Isn't that like a cardinal sin?
It is. That's a pretty
the level you have to be on for that to work is a level I assume you wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Okay, so it's known that like sometimes like big. Let's say there's a list of like say 20 comics doing workshop and stuff at like the comedy at the what's the famous ones in LA? I'm forgetting the name.
Sunset.
Yeah. So if like let's say Chappelle or someone comes in, like he's not gonna wait. He's gonna be like, as soon as he walks in, bump whoever was supposed to go next. Whoever was on stage finishes their set.
But that's what I'm saying. Next.
Yeah.
You can't run up and just be like, nah, nigga, get off my stage.
Yeah, that is, I've never heard of anything like that.
That's absurd.
It is.
You're a huge Chris Rock fan.
Yeah.
If Chris Rock walks into the room while you're performing and then goes, hey, my nigga, can I get 10 minutes? I'm sure you're going to say yes.
Yeah.
But that's still the rudest thing I've ever heard of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
and that's what makes it so fucked up. It's like and this is where we do really need to show. You know what he said as soon as he got back on stage?
What?
He goes, I think I just got comedy me too'd.
That's a pretty good.
And it's like, I mean, someone in power abusing their situation to take advantage of you and putting your career in a hostage situation. It's kind of the same thing.
On his part, I mean, like, I would take that L because it's like, yo, like, yeah.
I'm sure the pub you get from this is great.
Yeah, and also on top of that, like, I'm sure Amy appreciated it, and hopefully she will look out for him in the future. And maybe that's what she was. I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt and say that she was like, yeah, I'm gonna interrupt him, but like, I'm gonna hook him up. It's gonna be worth it for him to take this L. And if that's the case, I'll take the L. I will take the L if Amy's like, yeah, I'm gonna steal 10 minutes from you, but I'm gonna pay it forward. I'm gonna hook you up as much as I can for this 10 minutes. And I mean, I'd be okay with it. I mean,
you want a professional level transition I'm about to make out of this topic?
Yes.
If you want to learn more about that story and see how it did play out and whether or not Amy Schumer is a decent person, go check out the Stupid Little Podcast by Brandon Sagalow.
That was the comedian?
Yeah. He actually talks about it on his podcast. And that's
was he upset about it?
I mean, he took it in good stride.
You got to, man. Like, comedy is a rough pursuit. And there's going to be that. And when you get there, and that's why I usually like most comedians, even like the poppin' ones, have a lot of humility because it's such a dogfight to get up there. It's such a like you got to climb through a lot of shit in order to get to that level. And then once you get to that level, you can still eat dicks on stage and like bomb and like you can be brought back to earth really quickly. And I'm surprised that, she did that. I think, like, if I was Amy, I would just been like, send out a tweet. I will be in the park telling jokes at this time.
Well, go to New York's got 1,000 comedy clubs. Like, go to the Cellar, go to
exactly. She got to where she got from not accepting no and doing what she.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's not like she hasn't. I guess my view on it is people who fought through all of that, who have now made it, specifically in comedy, where a lot of it is about kind of being self-deprecating and like foraging through the shit that you're taking. Once you've made it, it's kind of your responsibility to do things the right way at the top so that it's easier the next time around for people. Not easier to get on, but there's less shit to go through.
Yeah.
We can just recognize good comedy.
Yeah.
And that's... There's certain comedians who really exemplify that, and certain comedians who go the exact opposite direction, where they're just like, "I'm the shit now. Y'all fend for yourselves. Fuck off."
Yeah.
And I just like, I don't know. Like, it's tough to respect it. Like, I get it. That's how some people remain great. You know what I mean? But that's. I look at Jordan as the prime example of this. It's like I haven't seen any shot of Michael Jordan looking remotely happy in 20 years.
Oh no.
You know what I mean? And my man owns a franchise. He's regarded as the greatest person ever at what he does. He's a billionaire.
And got a bomb ass new wife.
He owns a NASCAR team. Like, my man can literally do any fucking thing he wants, and he's the most miserable fuck I've ever seen.
Well, we don't know that. I'm sure he's like at least okay.
Oh, yeah.
But those. I mean,
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You gotta, if what you're about is getting other people along with you, you'll end up happier in the long term. I guess is my point.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm sure she's regretting this move. She's getting a lot of bad PR lately. I mean, there's some other stuff that she didn't want to do press for some movie she was coming out with, and you know, she didn't. I mean, I saw a few of the skits that she did on SNL. I just didn't think it was funny.
Yeah, I mean, I am excited to see her new movie. It got really shit reviews, but I still want to see that. That looks interesting.
Yeah.
The whatever pretty. I feel pretty.
Uh-huh.
I like the concept. I don't know if it's well executed or not.
Yeah.
That would tell me, put it this way, the fact that all I'm hearing is bad PR from regular life Amy Schumer and no PR about that movie says a lot about that movie. Because at the very least, Amy Schumer stands are loud in moments.
Yeah.
Like, I should have seen that pop for a second, and I never did.
I don't think she's handling fame
Particularly well.
No,
I agree.
Yeah.
And it's a shame, because I actually like Amy Schumer. Like, I like a lot of what she's about. She has partially the Lena Dunham curse, where like I think Amy Schumer's done some really great stuff, and because of that, she's afforded a very long leash with which she's not living up to her best hits. You know what I mean? Like Trainwreck is a bonafide, like that's an amazing movie. You know what I mean? And like she's got like certain bits in stand up where like truly amazing work, but then she has all this leeway because she's kind of being somebody who went through her particular line of shit. She's out here on a ledge kind of solo, you know what I mean? There's a lot of people trying to be like Amy Schumer right now, but nobody's in like a space where she's at in her lane. And the fact that she can't fill it is, I mean, there's a lot of lanes in comedy, right? You can be whatever identity profile you want to be, and play that however you want to play that. But there's jokes all the time about like after the Aziz Ansari thing, right? Like who's the Muslim American comedian you listen to?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. There's a lane there, and I'm sure there's hundreds of good ones, but none of them are in that space.
Yeah, none of those are like household names that's going to get their own shows and so forth.
And so like average looking white girls who are also funny is a pretty hard lane to get ahead in comedy with. You know what I mean? No doubt. And like Amy Schumer's out there on a ledge and not doing a whole lot with it.
Yeah.
Damn, we fucked my whole transition up, so now I don't know where to go.
It's all good.
Do you want to talk about niggas?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's talk about niggas. And by niggas, I mean the word niggas. Stephen A. Smith dropped a nigga on TV.
Yeah.
How do we feel?
I don't care.
Neither do I.
And I almost feel like because he was talking about Nick Saban, and it almost at the point where he said it, it almost seemed like he was gonna say nigga, and like Nick's like he I think he could have easily mixed up some words or almost like stopped saying Nick Saban and it sound like nigga.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's what he did or he actually dropped the N-bomb. But he dropped the N-bomb before.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's going to happen. Like, Stephen A. Smith, like, regardless of whatever your views of him on camera, on ESPN, on his radio show, I think he's just like a brother from, I think he's from New York. Is he?
Yeah.
So I think that's just who he is. And sometimes, and he's articulate, smart, well-educated, well-accomplished person. But like even those, they draw niggas around their friends, and that's part of the culture. Sometimes it's unslip. I don't care.
So I'll tell you how little I care. I literally didn't even watch the fucking clip.
You
know what I mean? I knew it happened already before. I knew he didn't lose his job then. I assume nothing's gonna happen to this.
Yeah.
I assume most people feel like you do. They don't really care.
Yeah.
I'll say this, like, my only issue with Stephen A. Smith's entire career is that it's happened on like basic cable. Yeah. Like Stephen A. Smith, if he's on HBO, it's like. He won't have the range of stardom he does now, but he would have, getting back to our conversation about Amy, I guess, the leash.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he'd have a lot more space to be him, and I think he'd be a lot better. I wish I lived in a place that got his radio show, because I'm curious what that's like.
Yeah.
I don't go out of my way to, like, look up radio shows on the internet, though. So, I bring that up to discuss this, then. There's a little girl, Kendrick Lamar show.
Yeah, saw that clip.
She, speaking of chubby, average-looking white women, white people. So she rapped the N-word, is what we're getting at here.
Yeah.
After that very pregnant pause, I guess This is one of those, like, I love debating the N-word because my opinion on it has always been in flux. I feel like if you pull somebody on stage to rap your lyrics,
yeah,
and your
it was definitely a setup.
Yeah, like, you know your lyrics, dog.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like,
you can't play gotcha games with your fans. That's
I know.
fucked
Yeah,
up.
it is. Yeah, I mean, like, what is she gonna do?
Right.
I mean,
because then you look like a bitch too. Like, you can't be up on stage just rapping along. And where'd you go? No, I said ninja. Like, what?
Yeah, and also I think that, like, people, like, of other cultures, other ethnicities, we all know that they say whatever the fuck they want when they're around their friends or
right.
or especially by themselves. They're in the song, and it's like it's a double-edged sword to where it's like, yeah, she should be respectful. She should, like, not say it, but could you crucify her for, like, saying it on stage? I mean, like, yeah, I think Kendrick kind of handled it well. He wasn't, like, acting like super. He was like, hey, there's one word you need to pause in there, and then, like, he kind of let her off easy, let her try again, and I think she censored herself the next time. But don't play those games, Kendrick. You know what it is, man.
What I feel like that was a poor move by him, and, like, for the first, I shouldn't say for the first time, because I guess I'm often on the side of white people, weirdly enough, in this conversation. So let me propose another one to you, because this one comes up in my life often. White guys who hang out with mostly black people, right, and grow up around black people, who have been many people's niggas. You like you said, we all know people use whatever terms in their circles, right?
Yeah.
And so I know plenty of white guys comfortable with that in their circles. What is like the guideline on if you've got that pass, using that in public spaces with those same people? Because that's difficult.
I think if that's your crew.
Do you have any white friends like that? Do you have a white friend who has the pass?
I mean, yeah, I think, like,
you have a non-black friend who has the pass?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I just don't, like, one, I'm all about a 10, and one, it's like
that I agree with.
And it's just like, I just don't have enough time to, like, correct that. It was like, if this person is, like, close to me and he's not using it as malice, he's using it almost as it's the vocabulary, you know, and it's hard to, you know. And then I understand both sides of it, but I'm not going to be like, oh, stop, you know, censor yourself. I don't want. I mean, there's a gap.
Here's my question then: if you're out, y'all, like, hanging out, or whatever, and yo, my nigga, grab me a beer or whatever, and somebody hears that and confronts him about it, do you back him up, or, like, what's your play there?
Yeah, you gotta back up your boys.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like,
yeah, but I mean, I feel, but on the other hand, that person is actually on the right. The dude who's like, yeah, so it's like it's
that's what I mean.
Weird, it's a limbo.
It's hard to, especially other black people, other, like, fucking SJW white people, get the fuck from around me. Like, that's my nigga. Like, leave me alone. Yeah. But, like, if another black person steps in, it's like, yo, my nigga, like, you can't say that shit.
Yeah, then I mean,
and then I'm gonna come over and be like, no, like, Brett's allowed to say it.
Yeah,
like that shit don't work.
No, I mean, yo,
I'm get fucked up.
Yeah, and Brett's in the wrong, and that's it.
Right.
And it's
you gotta know your surroundings.
Yeah,
white guys who use niggas, like, you gotta know where that shit's called for, and always err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
If you're wondering about it, don't do it.
Yeah, and you know, and maybe just don't do it. I mean, you know,
I think I might try and cut out nigga for Lent next year.
Yeah,
like, all jokes aside,
I'm not.
No, I never used to use it, and now it's become way too common in my vocabulary. I want to, like, get down the usage.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
Well, you'll always still be my nigga.
You be my nigga. Even you don't get no bigger.
Hey. Well, speaking of deplorable terms to call people of specific races, Trump in this wonderful comment.
I didn't see this. No, so you got to give me the
awesome
the lowdown on this.
So we know we like to put in the middle here. I want to present both sides of this. The headline quote that everybody ran with, it was definitely like a thing for 24 hours on the internet, was Trump pretty much said in his, we'll put the clip on page, obviously, in regards to immigrants illegal immigrants here in the country. These aren't people, these are animals. The remarks were made in response to, it was kind of a panel discussion. There was a sheriff who essentially was lamenting the fact that there's immigration laws that don't allow people to report like certain suspicious activities, and they've like missed out on apprehending MS-13 gang members and the like. Yeah. So a lot of people who are defending this are saying he's speaking specifically about MS-13 gang members. He never clarifies that in his remarks. He refers to them as they, illegal immigrants, bad people. We're rounding up lots of them, not enough of them. We've got the dumbest immigration laws of all time, and we're going to change things.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah. Do I think he was talking about MS-13 and other, these gangs that are, throwing people in acid and chopping their head off and stuff like that? I don't know. I know there is some brutal South American Mexican gang members, and they do some terrible, sickening things. And if he was talking about them, I can understand him taking that point of view. Is Trump very fumbly and not graceful with his words? I don't know. I do think he's like a bigot. I do think that, he categorized large groups of people in small definitions and terms. So there's always in his mind, I think there's going to be some spillover to who's bad and who's good and what's right and what's wrong and what's just a regular immigrant trying to, live the American dream and what's a gang member trying to, take opportunities away from America.
I don't think that's how gang members work, but
no, I'm saying there's good hardworking
Americans looking to shoot people and rob all.
No, I was saying in his mind, I think he blends the two groups into one. I think that the lines in his mind, it gets blurry, and I think the line that a lot of super right wing people gets blurry to what's hurting America as far as immigration, illegal immigrations included, and what is good for America, because there is a large portion of illegal immigrants that support a certain, especially at a certain economic and workforce level, that's good for America. But there is a blurry line that a lot of people have between them and these super thugged out gang members coming over here.
So I often tell the story to people met a lot of interesting characters in my times in Jersey. And one of the most interesting people I met was a dude who, I think he was 14 or 15, and had recently been initiated into MS-13. And you hear all the stories and whatever, but hearing it firsthand, he's terrified. He's a fucking kid. He just turned 15 or whatever. Yeah. And they literally had him stalk and mark this disabled elderly woman, run her down in her wheelchair, kidnap her, store her in a warehouse, torture her for 2 days, raped her and killed her.
Jeez.
And it's that's a 15-year-old. One of the things I really always strive to point out to people about gang culture is please don't get it fucked up. All the gang atrocities you hear about, none of those are adults. Yeah. All there are adults who run that shit who graduated from that life, maybe, but they don't do any of that work. Yeah. They commandeer people's fucking children. Yeah. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody over 22 shooting anybody. No. You know what I mean? That's just not how that shit is structured. Yeah. And so I look at comments like this and I get it. I know MS-13 does that shit. Yeah. But you've also got to recognize that when you're talking in large swaths like that, when you're not identifying who you're talking about, like you said, things can get jumbled and people can mistake what you're identifying. But even if you are talking specifically of the group MS-13 that people who are supporting these remarks are saying he is, those are still people. Those are still humans. Yeah. And in large swaths, the atrocities that you're talking about are kids. You should not be treating them like animals. More than ever, we need to be identifying them as people, and people that we need to find a way to reach and rehabilitate. Because we're not going to round them all up and send them back to a country that literally is adjacent to us, or maybe a couple countries down, depending on which country you wanted to pick them from. Right? Yeah. when they're coming back.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how travel works. The wall's not going to work, dog.
In one way or another. I agree to a certain extent. I do also, I do also see the anger and hearing once you hear and like that to play devil's advocate, I guess. I'm sure Trump has a lot of intel that we don't hear. I'm sure he gets inundated with the terrible things that are happening at the border and surrounding areas. And
if your reaction to that is to say these types of things, you're not qualified to be president.
I mean,
there's a level of decorum that comes with that position to not like rile up the masses over things that are like you're hearing about because you're the president. You're not.
I understand it though to a certain extent. I was listening to Rogan's podcast and he had Tim Kennedy's in here. He's a UFC fighter, but he's also a special force Army Ranger, and he was like. He said he was talking about some like he was like there's some men that threw when he was in Afghanistan. He was like there was some guys out there and they threw acid on kids out there. He's like and I found those guys and I killed them. And he was like, and that's what you do when you hurt children. And then he said something about like he's doing this Nazi show and how some of these Nazis had escaped to Chile and they have these big German camps out there. And this is like after World War II ended, a lot of these top Nazi leaders went to Chile, and they were doing the same experiments they were doing on Jews in Chile. And he was talking about some of the things that these people were doing, and they're still in Chile. They're in these communities and they're proud of their like Nazi heritage. And he was like, I wanted to go to that area and just murder those people. So I understand of hearing something terrible done and just being filled with anger. Now, should the president be speaking like that? Absolutely not. He should be using his words, a lot, more gracefully and but that's Trump. And I can't, there's a part of me too, and I can't be a hypocrite and say, like shame on him, because when I hear stuff like that, there's a part of me that's just like, I don't care what age you are, I want to kill you, I want you off air. And it's wrong. I mean, I don't think we should be jury and executioner from our seats that we sit in. But there's a part of my mind that says, that kid raped some old lady, tortured her for 2 days. If I had a gun, I would shoot him in the head.
I guess I had to learn a long time ago spending
time. And you spend time with them, so you have a better understanding of it.
And I think like seeing it up close and specifically like just like if your options are essentially like see them as humans and try and like connect with them being to being, or fight. Yeah. Like I'm 6'1", 240 now, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's not like I've ever been a small dude. But you're talking like these animals you're talking about. Yeah. Like, bro, I've been in like a handful of situations where I've thrown a punch. Like I'm a pretty passive guy. I don't really want the smoke. Yeah. If you want it, then like it can happen. But I don't really want to do that. Yeah. And it's like I'm not walking into a room with 26 niggas who like 7 of these dudes here for murder. I remember there was a day homie walked through the door after going to court. Literally was like, "Word, beat that shit." I was like, "Word?" He's like, "Yeah, I definitely killed that nigga." You know what I mean? Like there are some proud killers in this joint. Yeah. So it's like you have to like.
How do you read?
You have to see through that, I guess is my point. Like nobody, what I discovered is nobody wants to be that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to be vicious. Nobody wants to be an animal. Yeah. Especially like at that young of an age, right? Yeah. And if you can reach beyond that, then you can see the humanity in that. Yeah,
I agree. I think that America, especially humans in general, have typically will try to treat the symptoms and never get to the root of the issues. And because it's so easy to be like, oh, okay, well this is, they're murdering people and let's get rid of them. And not seeing like the root of what's causing these people disenfranchised, poor, lost, hungry, searching for opportunity, and only seeing the gang as a way out to be like, oh yeah, that's my way out. Let me do that. And, if it takes me killing to, get protection for my neighborhood or in my neighborhood and make money and hopefully, be able to provide for my families, and I guess I got to kill to get in it. And I haven't had to, face those choices, but I do understand, anyone being like, yeah, well, like, still, like, we can correct the problems, but right now, this person is torturing people. Let's get rid of them.
I guess
and that's me trying not to be a hypocrite.
That's what I mean. Like, but that's the existential debate, right? And so I guess like you're right. It's hypocritical of me to say I've never had that reaction. Right? Like, there are plenty of things I've had in my life that I've seen done to people I love, or to myself, or to people who are like me, or whatever, that like have elicited the reaction of, boy, if you were in front of me and I owned a gun, I'd kill you. I joke often that like part of the reason I advocate for better gun laws is so people like. I shouldn't have easy access to a gun, but I should have access to a gun. And there should be laws that document those steps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't keep one in my home, nor should I be able to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. In me right now I think I'm more sound mind, but me at 21 or something with a gun probably wouldn't make the best decisions.
But that's what I mean. And I think everybody who's not hypocritical of themselves can admit to having had that feeling.
Yeah.
And so like that underpinning the gun debate is a conversation for another time, I guess. But I always hear comments like that, and it's a sweeping generalization. It's just a shitty thing to say. We don't need to spend all day about it, I guess. But my point is, like, it's an important reminder to, like, there is no such thing. You know what I mean? Like, we're all people. All of humankind is people. The most despicable word. Trump is a person.
Yeah.
No matter how much I sit here and shit about him into a microphone on the internet for going on a year now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trump is a human being.
Yeah.
I feel for him. I don't want him dead.
Yeah.
I want him held accountable. I want him brought to justice for crimes I feel like he's committed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I don't want him dead. I don't want to mercilessly drag him out in an alley and shoot him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember having those feelings about Bin Laden when that happened. All these people, and I was like, I wanted to say that. I want to tie him up in Yankee Stadium to a stake and everyone in New York gets a swing at him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But no, I don't really want that because I don't really believe in that for humanity. And I feel like it's times like these when we need to start trying to center ourselves in those mindsets instead of just leaning into like, I know this is kind of wrong, but it feels natural, so I'm going to go with it.
Yeah.
Because that shit is not good.
Yeah.
This is
there's a part of me that knows that that's very true, and there's a part of me that says, yeah, but like, you were coming to my house, robbing my family, or trying to do harm.
Right.
I'm gonna shoot you, and I'm gonna sleep very well that night.
We have 3 other things we wanted to cover in the first half, and we're already out of time.
Yeah, we're already at 34 minutes.
So this whole conversation today is kind of centered around this idea of political correctness. So there's one other one I feel like I actually really want to get to in this particular episode, and that's that Spelman College graduated its first openly trans man.
Yeah. Now,
for those who don't know, probably know Spelman College is a historically black college and university.
It's a female college.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a women's college. So essentially, she had gone there freshman year, really struggled with some issues within the community at Spelman, transferred to a whiter school where she, I guess at the time, or I guess he now, speaking past tense, I'm bad with pronouns, was able to, in his own words, grow and develop himself into the way he wanted to be.
I thought it was he that is...
No, woman who transitioned to a man.
Okay.
So when they enrolled at Spelman, they were she. Transferred to an all-white school, came back, she transitioned to a he over the time. And so kind of came back to Spelman, and he had cited that one of the reasons he transferred schools was to kind of grow into himself without, quote, the pressures of other black folks telling me I couldn't do or be something. I came back to Spelman near my junior year because although I could flourish in my queerness, I felt like I was denying my blackness at this other school. And I was nothing more to a body than those folks. And it was such an interesting, I guess, problem to have, right? I often speak about this with other people, and I love your thoughts on this, is like, black culture's like intolerance of queerness. And like black culture is just rounding out now to accept like gay men.
I think still barely. I think they're still, massively behind on that acceptance of homosexuality and queer and trends and the whole LTBQ,
the alphabet.
Yeah, they gotta simplify that shit, man.
That's why I call it the alphabet. Though. I literally call it the LGBT alphabet.
Yeah, they gotta do something. They need to get their marketing under control. But
hashtag, dog.
I don't think it's just black people. I think it's a large minority, lots of minorities in general, as far
specifically
as
like first and second generation, the newer you are to the country.
And it's I think back in the day, that's in California when they tried to legalize gay marriage. A lot of the reason why it didn't get passed, I'm not sure if it's passed now, but I know
it has sense.
But previously it was because a lot of African American, especially female, if I remember correctly, voted against it because religion. And and it's one of those things.
Wait, hold on, pause. Did we just find a reason we could shit on black women for the first time?
I'm not gonna shit. I'm not gonna shit on anyone because I know that it is a weird thing for someone who with limited experience with the culture to understand, especially when they've been inundated with Christian beliefs and foundation of Christian fundamentals, and so it feels like you're going against Christ and religion in order to be supportive of that. I think, and it goes to something that we're going to hopefully touch on later. The guy in that debate, the British guy, Stephen Fry, he said that this whole certainty thing is like for Americans, regardless of you right or left, to be so certain about things, even like Christianity, seems to be like a problem.
I agree.
Because like even if you've read the Bible, you studied the Bible, yes, I mean there's some, especially Old Testament stuff, there's some stern stuff on there, but like Jesus himself, was very he was very open about he was breaking a lot of rules that like the Old Testament and these strict religious people were like, you shouldn't do that, and he was like, yeah, well, like I'm doing it. And so it's like, to be so certain about something and it to affect other people's lives and experience on this earth is something that I think is inherently unchristian.
Yeah, and I mean, we can definitely another day have a conversation about like the
interpretations of religion.
Well, and just like the Christianization of black culture.
Yeah.
Which I think is just like a fascinating thing, and we can get into that another time. But I do think among kind of the immigrant population, obviously religion and religious convictions are a lot stronger. I think black people are specifically kind of in that same pool as we've just kind of recently been finding our identity in the last years of freedom, like 30 years, 50 years. And religion's one of those kind of, like you said, those stakes that you kind of can't challenge if you want it to all hold together.
Yeah.
That being said, it creates this weird effect, and this is the other thing I wanted to bring up here, is like, how do you exist as an other amongst others? And that, it's something I kind of joke with some of my queer friends about. That, like, I have this weird other amongst others passing privilege of being like pansexual and biracial. It's like I'm an other everywhere I go, so I'm not really an other, right? And I get kind of a pass in like the black community or the queer community or whatever. It's like I can go hang out with queer people and have a girlfriend. It's not weird. I can hang out with black people and nobody calls me out for saying they're even though I'm mostly white, right? You know what I mean? Like all these different things.
Yeah.
And it's just I guess I never thought of it in this predicament where, like, to be a man amongst women, first off, but a man amongst women in a women's body, and then trying to make that transition and, like, having very limited support from the community around you that's supposed to be, like, supporting you and helping you flourish.
Yeah.
It's a very weird status.
It is. It's that, I mean, there is going to be no pleasant way through that journey. There is, especially through the black community, that is, I mean, the black community can criticize the hell out of some shit. And it's one of my biggest criticisms, to the black community, which is extremely critical and extremely bias and critical on a lot of issues. But could use a lot more unity and togetherness and openness in order to move forward, and acceptance in order to move forward. Me and my buddy Sean even said that we've had several conversations like that black people. I mean, just starting to a little bit more. We don't even embrace our nerds.
It's still corny to go to college for a lot of black people.
And look, we're just now accepting Childish Gambino. We're just, but look at it. I had this conversation, I had this conversation with a random dude in New Orleans, out drinking. We were talking, and he was from Beverly Hills, and he was talking about and he was a very proper, you can tell he was Beverly Hills white, or kind of really influenced by white culture, and he was I don't really have that many black friends and so forth out there, and we started talking about how black people don't accept him as much, and I was black people have a problem accepting their nerds. I mean, when they provide so much to other culture, you look at Neil deGrasse Tyson was the perfect example of dude, someone that is a rock star among a lot of people, but really only embraced in the white community. You can ask a lot of black people.
He just got kind of on the culture circuit.
Exactly.
Bill Nye is more accepted by black people than Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Exactly. And it's dude, we need to not lose out on these great minds and these great sources and we need to embrace them. It's everything just can't be cool. Some things gotta be or educated and and being a thinker has to be cool. Hell yeah, dude.
Donald Glover's first breakout special was aptly titled "Weirdo."
Yeah,
and black culture has always rejected the weirdo because we've been in a survival state of mind where anything weird wasn't getting us ahead enough to survive more existentially. And now that we're in a place where we're still threatened all the time, but there is some room to grow. We need to learn to accept the people who are pushing the culture in that direction.
Exactly. And I've always been it's just been a personal battle for me in my life, because I've always been I dress fashionably, but I've tried to be funny, but that was all just I guess a defense mechanism, because I was always kind of geeky and nerdy and awkward and shit, and I grew to myself by the time I was in high school, where I was able to adapt and learn from the culture, and I really got into hip hop and shit like that by really, especially by the time I was 13, 14, I was really getting into hip hop, and I started to balance both worlds and so forth. But I was when I was 11, I was reading science fiction books and reading every episode of Calvin and Hobbes and Far Side. I was
and you realize a lot of that shit now is popping.
You
realize wrestling's made this whole new resurgence in black culture.
Yeah,
who still watches wrestling? That shit was popping 25 years ago. But all the niggas who secretly watched wrestling back then can now come out of the woodwork and fan out of it. I was awesome.
All about wrestling.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, but I think this respect to him. I think that we need to recognize this black culture and need to push forward to be more inclusive, more open, and embrace some of the people who we normally didn't embrace, and at least check yourself before you start judging them.
Last question on that: do you feel like a trans male should be able to attend a women's college?
I don't give a shit.
And neither do I. Question that came up in the comments. I figured I'd ask.
I don't give a shit. And this is the biggest problem. Just leave people alone. Why are we? Oh, you can't. I can see if it's a sport or something like that, and it's if you're if you're a man transferring into transition into a woman, and you want to fight UFC or play women's basketball, then there's some issues, because now you have a
so what if you enroll at Spelman and you start pumping testosterone?
Yeah,
but you haven't transitioned.
Yeah, I think is
that a PED?
It should be. It's definitely be, man. It's an unfair advantage, and I think that's the only thing that I have a problem with. But where you go to school and shit like that, I could give two shits.
I agree. I I'm still trying to reconcile the gender balance in sports, but we'll do that another time. You'll know, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of this conversation today is kind of centered around this idea of political correctness, because we're a bunch of fucking nerds. We watched a 2-hour debate on political correctness in our spare time.
A lot of people are nerds because over 1 million people watched it.
1.3 million and counting in the past, what's it been, 2 days, 3 days?
Yeah, 3 days.
So there's a debate, and the question on the table was, how do they frame it?
Is political correctness is political correctness going too far or something like that?
No, the actual question they were supposed to be was, is political correctness
or progress
an
or something
indicator of progress?
Yeah, it was like your political correctness or progress or something like something like that.
I can't figure it out. Never mind. Fuck it. We're going to share a lot from the video this coming weekend.
But it's the Munk Debate. It was in Toronto, Canada. Yeah. It was with Jordan Peterson, Stephen Fry, Michael, Eric, I forget his name. Michael, Eric, Dyson.
McGon Derrickson, thank you, yes.
And what was the lady's
Michelle
name?
Goldberg.
Yeah. Incredible debate. You have time to watch the whole thing. It is the conversation that's going on, whether you're participating or not, for really since the Trump era, but a little bit before that. I think into the Obama era it started to begin, where a lot of the conflict between right and left, and the hierarchies of power and politics and political correctness are kind of clashing all together.
Yeah, and so a lot of it kind of centered around, what it's supposed to center around essentially is what we deem political correctness really just us getting better as a society, us progressing. And the debate against that, as presented, was pretty much that it inherently works against the framework of the world's best democracies, such as America's, which rely upon the idea of individuality and like one's independence from a group. So your ability, your access to the assumption of independent innocence was a really good point that got brought up there. Essentially the ability to transition between social straits or castes was another thing that got brought up repetitively. I guess economic mobility, social mobility, and all of these things are tied to the ability for you to overcome any individual obstacle. And that's why we often boil it down into democratic societies to all other things considered. Like, this is the best way to do it because you have more access to getting ahead independently than you would as a group. That's an interesting argument, because on the flip side, as America has shown again and again and again, and this was presented as one of the arguments against, is that group leadership has often directed our progress. Whether that was our group leadership to succeed from Britain and fight the British and create our own country, whether that was group leadership that got women the right to vote, whether that was group leadership that kind of galvanized black culture during the civil rights era, whether that was group thought that got gay marriage done. All of these things are union work. All of these examples are people who are disenfranchised galvanizing with a group voice to essentially swing the political levers in their favor. Where I think the real line of political correctness is, and what Stephen Fry got at many times in this debate, is that there's a common code of decency that his argument was that we shouldn't adhere to. My argument is that we should. And that is that is common decency, that is political correctness. It is the respect for one's individual identity, however they describe themselves, and being able to communicate with them in the framework of how they want to be, I guess, identified. If you are to do that, then you have to work within a set of limitations, right? Like, if I'm talking to a transgender person, no matter how unversed I am in that, if I call them a fucking tranny and they go, hey, I don't want to be called a fucking tranny, then I now know that there's a level of political correctness where I'm not going to use that term. I don't think that's inherently bad.
And I think everyone on that panel can agree to that. Where Jordan Peterson and Stephen Fry, and I agree with them on this, is that the point to where you're setting laws like they are in Canada, where you're forced to use certain gender pronouns, I think it's gone too far. You cannot police language. That is freedom of speech, and once you have
what do you
been
mean forced?
Where if you don't, that there is, I forget the exact bill, but there's a bill that's passed in that they're trying to pass, or already passed in Canada. It's like the 3-9 something other. And it's that like if you can be fined or something, like there's like you can be there's a cost, you can be punished for not using proper gender pronouns and so forth. And I think that's a little like that's out of hand. Like, yeah, you can if you want to be respectful, then yeah, and that's you should use someone's proper pronoun wherever they ask you to use, but you shouldn't be forced to. There should be no laws. Like political correctness should not be in the law and be forced by
It sounds like, from what I'm skimming here, this law would pretty much only apply to, like, essentially professional experiences. Mm-hmm. So, like, if you've transitioned into being a woman and your boss knows you're trans, mm-hmm. he can't deliberately call you he all the time. Mm-hmm. Or, like, that's what I mean. Like, one of the conversations that kept coming up is, like, there's this fear and this feeling, and then there's actuality. Mm-hmm. Like, there's this fear and this feeling that we're policing speech. We're saying you have to use the pronouns or else we're going to jail you. Yeah. And that's not the case. We're saying when I'm at work, when I'm being a professional, when I'm interacting with people in a capacity I'm very good at, you pay me to be talented at, I'd like you to respect me enough to call me out, not call me out my name. Yeah. Like if you went to work and your boss was like, nah, Chris, I'm just going to call you bitch from now on. Like, would you stand for that?
No,
what if that was just his word for people like that?
I think that is...
that's what I'm saying.
Well, but I don't think that he should go to jail for that. I think that, like, I can sue him for, like, some kind of...
a fine? Of some monetary reward?
Yeah, but
that's
like,
what they're saying.
Yeah, but I just...
You would take it up with...
And I don't think that...
The Department of Labor, right? That's who you would go to. That would be workplace mistreatment and harassment, right?
Yeah, and I'm not like Jordan Peterson is way better at explaining this than I am, so I would not.
As is Uncle Eric Dyson and Michelle Goldberg.
I think they were terrible at debating it, and I think
Michael Eric Dyson got very sidetracked and
I think in Michelle Goldberg, she was not making any sense.
In
anything, she was just rambling. She was giving like broad concepts and so forth. I didn't think she added anything to the whole debate. I thought Michael Eric Dyson.
I think the issue that I had was more there was the three of them debating something. Like three people would often debate whatever topic they got on and completely miss the point of political correctness.
Yeah, exactly.
And then after I feel like Michelle Goldberg often tried to redirect the conversation, and then they would just go in a different direction to attack one another.
Exactly.
I don't necessarily put that on her.
But here's the. I think once you start putting things in laws, things get weird and things. And
I guess my point is nobody is like that's not happening.
It can happen, and it has been happening, and this is why some of the things.
What thing can you not say anymore?
Well, okay, so some girl almost got. There was a college grad student, and she was, I guess she was probably like she was teaching too through the program, and she just simply played a video of Jordan Peterson and discussing this on a TV show, and they called her to his office and like, look, like you can't play this at all, and it was like it threatened her. This is a college course, okay. And they were like, yeah, no, you can't play this. This is equivalent to playing Hitler or playing Milo Yiannopoulos. You like this is stuff that, and it's like no, this is like a discussion.
I agree that's extreme. But if you're talking about a private institution and they direct their curriculum in a certain direction,
I have a problem. I have a problem when you're policing. You're policing ideals.
I agree with you at a state college. I don't agree with that. There are plenty of abhorrent private educational institutions that I despise and would never send my children to and can't believe they fucking exist. But that doesn't mean they don't have a right to.
Yeah,
And they can teach whatever they want to.
But I don't think this. I think this was.
You send your kids to religious schools.
So this is Canada, so everything is pretty much funded by the government. So to a certain extent, right? Their college education, they're all to a certain extent.
I'm pretty sure there are private institutions in Canada as well. I don't know what school she taught at.
Yeah, I think it was L'Oreal.
Okay.
So but still, like the fact that now I just think is a slippery slope. And this is like, if you guys check out any of Jordan Peterson's lecture about like the what's the bill C-16?
Yes. C-279 that started at past the C-16.
Yeah. So if you look at some of his, and I'm a big fan of Jordan Peterson. He's very.
So fun fact: we talked about Jordan Peterson before in this podcast. I was thinking Jordan Harbinger this whole time.
Yeah.
So I like Jordan Harbinger a lot. Shout out to Jordan Harbinger. Sorry to make the comparison. Sorry to give you so much bad press. Check out the Jordan Harbinger show. It's awesome. Jordan Peterson is like, I can't wrap my head around. Like he pretty much made 4 like juvenile arguments that boiled down to you can't prove that the left won't go all the way to the extreme that the right has. So all your other arguments are invalid, which is idiotic and off topic.
No,
nobody's here to. We're not here to debate politics. We're here to debate political correctness. No. His entire argument hinged on the fact that like the left can become tyrannical and fascist too, which I don't disagree with, and then ask people to discuss like examples of how it had, so that he can point to those.
Okay, so this
and where they would draw the line.
Okay, no, I think
they drew the line at violence, intimidation, and censorism.
But it's already, his point is it's already going too far once again. It's ideologies is where you start. And this is,
where do you believe it's going too far? That's why
when you're policing when you're policing language, when someone says something on Twitter or makes a statement, and but no, you have to look at some of the examples, like some of these schools that are like banning speakers.
Some of these examples are people like Jordan Peterson in a video saying that trans people aren't real humans.
No, he's never said that.
Okay, Ben Shapiro has made similar arguments that they're essentially biological malfunctions.
Okay, yeah,
and people are mentally ill.
And Ben Shapiro might have said something like that. That's true.
I'm saying Jordan Peterson has said similar things. My point is, you would play that to an audience of students and feel like if there were potentially trans students in the classroom, that's like an alright thing to be broadcast.
Jordan Peterson has never said that, and so yeah, search it as you want. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing: if they, I feel like you should have if we either live in a free culture or we don't. Now, if
the idea that gender identity is independent from one's biological foundation is fundamentally ridiculous. Jordan Peterson is the first Google search that comes up.
If that gender's not real. Yes, there is gender real. Now he's never said that you can't be.
He's making the argument that the idea that gender is separated from biological sex is preposterous.
I mean,
that's been an accepted fact in the psychological community for over 30 years.
I would. You have to play the video. You can't read the.
I can't read his words.
Yeah, you have to. You have to give. I mean, in order to get. See, this is my problem with like just to take something like a quick snippet, and that's why I won't even listen to like someone say, "Oh, well, this is what he said." But to take someone. I
said this is what he said. You said he didn't. I'm pulling up his words for you.
Yeah, but you have to give a complete breakdown of what he's saying. You can't just be like, okay, like take a YouTube title and be like, okay, well, this is what he said. You have to give him his right to explain his point of view.
Cool. Well, I'm not gonna sit here and watch 7 minutes of
exactly. But like I've seen a lot of his lecture and a lot of him breaking down, and usually what he says from all my experience is that like gender is a real thing, and for people not to deny that gender is a real thing, that there are men and women, and
nobody's saying gender isn't real. People are saying gender is different from biological sex, which is true.
Yeah.
Gender is your presentation of how you want to be viewed in the world. Where amongst the gender spectrum
exactly
they lie. Your biological sex is your biological sex.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's...
He's saying that doesn't exist.
Now, I would have to watch the video to see his breakdown and explanation.
He said it plenty of places. That's what I'm saying to you.
Yeah, I would have to see it. I've never seen him be like, oh, no, a person can't feel like they're...
Let's say anyone had said that. Mm-hmm. Would you feel comfortable playing that to a room full of students? Or is there a level of political correctness that should come into play?
A room full of students is I wouldn't feel comfortable playing anything as far as like a controversial statement for a room full. If you're paying for something, because you're paying for something, it should be if there's scientific data that's backing it, then I feel like it's okay to play. But if it's just opinions or something like that that's not backed, then it should, especially you're paying for it. Now, if you're given to speak, now if
that's where me and you both have a problem with a lot of the colleges.
Yeah, exactly. But if someone's given, I will defend the right for someone to be a Nazi. Mm-hmm. Because we live in a culture that you should have freedom of speech. Even though I don't believe in what you say, I will defend your right to be, in your ability to say it. And I feel like that, and I think that's some of the things I've seen Jordan Peterson stand for, is the fact that he's like, we can't let things go out of hand to where we're like policing language, so because things, once you, it is a slippery slope, and we've seen it in the 20th century.
But we also can't let things get out of hand in the other direction, where we just say the rebuttal to that has continuously been throughout history and continues to be in this generation, that we should then, to counteract that, just say things to say them. Like, we should go out and shout training at trans people in the streets. We should go out and call black people niggas. We should burn torches and march to defend our Confederate statues, all in the name of expressing our freedom of speech. The idea of political correctness is not to limit free speech, but to structure it in a sense that it is productive and not inherently violent and fear-mongering. If what you're advocating for is to allow Nazism, right, then, like, I'm with you. That's fine. People are allowed to say what they want to say, right? But if what you're saying, what you want to say, is then you gathering people on a street corner to shout hate speech at people, and some of those people then run them over with a car, then where do you draw the line on that level? Like, that's why you need political correctness. That's why there needs to be a level of decorum that is accepted amongst all of us to communicate correctly.
Yes, but and I agree with that. I mean, I operate my day-to-day life like that. But what I have a problem is how we enforce it.
And what is your you keep bringing up these restrictions on your daily life. Like, what are they?
No, what I'm saying is how do you no one likes hate speech.
Right, and the way we've been combating it, that people get all uptight and butthurt about now, is public shame.
And I have no problem with. I think public shame is a good method. But when you're saying, okay, well, it gets blurry, and it has gotten blurry, especially on the left, when you're like, oh, well, like, someone can't come to and pay to rent out a hall because we don't like what he's saying. And I'm like, all right, well, like, if people aren't paid to see this person, there's a large population that's going to pay to see this person. It's not on campus. Then I'm fine. Now, if you want to boycott that, then that is your right and your duty to boycott that or picket or whatever. But they should have the freedom. I don't feel like you should, start a riot or get violent or on either side in order to stop someone from speaking.
I agree with that.
And
nobody's advocating for what part of political correctness is that?
But how are we defending this political correctness? Like, I do think some of the.
Do you think it's politically correct to violently riot to protest somebody's speech?
I don't think any. I don't accept any violence.
But I'm saying, would anyone describe that action as politically correct?
No one would. But I don't.
So what are you arguing against? That's my point.
I'm arguing against policing of language.
Right, but if you're equating two separate things, like. Policing the language is you say something dumb, and then people eventually stop booking you, and people on Twitter start saying mean things to you, and that's the policing of the language.
I'm talking about putting laws in place where people cannot say certain things.
Right, and what I'm asking you is to tell me where those laws are affecting anything and where they're actually being put into place, because they're not. That's fundamentally untrue.
I think. So you're for putting laws in to stop people from saying shit?
No, but I am also for calling the conversation what it is. That's a hypothetical. That's not happening, and we're not in danger of it happening.
It's a slippery slope, and that's where I feel it going, because now you're interpreting what is hate speech. I don't like what Twitter does, and Facebook, Instagram is like, oh, you can't post this. It's like, this.
I mean, yes and no. Some things there should be a cover warning on a graphic video of a violent murder, right?
Yes, but exactly. Yeah,
that's an example of political correctness. What do we have against that?
But if someone says, for instance, if you make a joke, say, yeah, I'm going to murder you or something like that. Well, like, you're removed off Twitter. Or you say something about a certain celebrity or something like that. Now you're removed off Twitter and shit. It's like, dude, like,
I mean, I've gotten plenty of 24-hour Twitter bans. I've never had any that. I've never been fully removed from Twitter.
Yeah,
for literally anything. And we talked about this off air before this episode. I need to go scrub my Twitter history.
Yeah,
There's some shit in my Twitter.
Like, either things gonna be like, you can't protect it. I think it does get ridiculous when we're policing words and speech. Making things like I think you should, like, culture should police culture and like how people see you and view you, and maybe how jobs hire you based on like, oh, well, this guy it does not stand for what we stand for. That is how you. But when you start putting laws into place and you start, then I'm not for that.
My point is, laws aren't being put into place. What's happening?
Well, it is in Canada.
One specific law.
That's where does it start?
One specific law that specifically looks at how you should be treated in your workplace and not to be called outside of the gender that you declare as your own identity. What is limiting about that?
Well, okay, what's limited about that is that, like, how many now gender pronouns are there?
Depending on which country or which society you want to believe in, 3.
Well, okay, but no,
he, she, and she or they.
The problem is that there is a ton of these gender pronouns, and now
There's 3.
Dude,
there's he, she, and they.
This is that. I guarantee you, like, the ability.
No, I get it. There's the Z one and there's women with a Y, and
there's a ton of fringe ones that are going out. Now it's just like,
and nobody with a non-male female pronoun has any offense to they. It's all encompassing.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. Like, these are false problems. These are hypothetical problems. You can't incorporate they into, like, your vocabulary.
But now it's like, oh, well, call me. I just think, why we, like, proper, like, respect. If someone's not being respectful in their job, then they need to be disciplined. But when you're putting in law, and it's like, yo, like, I go to my manager, like, yo, like, he needs to, or go above the manager, and he needs to be like, my name's John, he can call me John. Or, like, this is, like, proper, just, what business is not going to resolve that?
The problem is, just like every other targeted society in history, like, we've needed laws to make white people not call us niggers at work, right? There's a law for that. Right,
and it's a harassment law. So why isn't that?
So this is also a harassment law.
Yeah, I'm not with it.
It's a workplace harassment law. How is that different?
Why not just use the previous workplace harassment laws then?
Because they don't cover gendered issues such as pronouncing, because they weren't respecting trans people when they wrote those laws 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Trans people were still called fucking freaks and beaten up and killed in the streets. Now they get killed in the streets slightly less often, but it's still happening. Thus the law.
Yeah. I look, I'm all for respecting people. I'm just not for, like, blanketed laws to, of speech, and I think it can get in this. And I haven't read.
I guess my argument to you is that those laws aren't happening. All that's happening is that people are getting made to feel uncomfortable, and the idea that they need to be respectful to a new group of people that they have to identify as people scares them. Like, the idea of being respectful to women. We talk about this all the time in this podcast. For generations, literally as long as we've been alive, up until like 8 years ago maybe, it's been pretty fucking cool to disrespect women. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're finally moving into an era where, like, the idea of
it's been socially acceptable to be disrespectful.
But we're moving into this era now where, like, standing up for women is cool, and women being individuals is cool, and, like, there are lots of people who aren't accepting of that yet. This is the same type of thing. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, and that's where I get back to this idea of political correctness, I guess, to put a bow on this, is like, it's not about policing any particular parts of speech. It's about asking people to respect the individual identities of each, like, one another.
Yeah.
And the only thing that's uncomfortable about that for people that no one's willing to admit to themselves is that all that takes is respecting all types of people. And it's hard for us because a lot of us haven't met all types of people, right? Like, I remember when we first met, like, I think I've got maybe half of a like Arabic friend. I know no Middle Eastern people.
Yeah.
I have like a couple I've interacted with in my life. Outside of Israel, I know a lot of Jews. But my point is, like, I don't know anything about Arabic culture, so I have all these misconceptions, and I don't know. But so long as when I show up, I say, hey, like, if I say something out of pocket, just like correct me and let me know, and then like try to be better about that moving forward. Everyone's cool.
Yeah.
But if I meet you and like I'm like, hey, my name's Mitch, and like I said earlier, like you just decide to be like, no, your name's Bitch from now on. And every time you see me, you're just like, what up,
Well, that's
bitch?
harassment.
Right. It's the same thing though. If I show up and I'm like, hey, I'm a he, and every time you see me, you call me a chick.
Yeah.
Right. You wouldn't be like if somebody called you a chick every time they saw you, you'd be offended. You would file a harassment complaint. Or beat the shit out of them.
I would definitely file harassment, but I think it is getting. I think there should just be like there should be a overall harassment bill based on and gender should be in there, but I don't think anyone should.
I agree with you.
I think it's
rewriting the bill instead of adding on new bills.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like
I don't know where's the difference.
If this 70-year-old professor is just like, oh, like I called her, I'm sorry. Like now it's like, well, this is the fourth time he does it. I want this guy's job. And it's like,
but I guess my point is like I just don't like.
Well, he broke the law.
Yes, and this is where things come out in the watch. And you mentioned Michelle Goldberg's contribution to the conversation. One of the things I was happy she brought up that nobody then responded to was that like. The Me Too movement's a prime example of this, where it's like lots of people's names got thrown out in the mud, lots of people got dragged. But if you look at it holistically, most of those men who like even the lighter accusations that proved out to be true are getting their jobs back or never lost their jobs at all. Maybe took a 2-week paid suspension. You know what I mean? Like. The ones that really lost their jobs and lost positions of power were guys we can all kind of fundamentally agree had that coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the dude who like commented on a girl's ass being too tight in jeans when he was a mail clerk 20 years ago isn't losing his job.
Yeah, but even look at a person like Aziz Ansari who went on which we said in this podcast, an awkward, weird date, and he's dragged through the mud. I mean, he may get
6 months later now. Aziz Ansari will be back.
But how much money has he lost?
That's a fair argument.
And it's like, some of these guys who were kind of prosecuted in the public without real evidence or due process, they'll be okay in a few months. But it's like, a few months of stress and of if they didn't do it and we don't know because they got no due process, it's like they'll be okay, but it's like it's still that floating in the atmosphere. Anytime you meet, that still follows them, and it's like I think they're
I guess it's tough for me because as somebody with a lot of those things floating behind me, I also just look at it like, hey man, like welcome to finally being an other. Where you're assumed about
I don't think that's good enough.
I agree, and we shouldn't. And Mike Dyson made that argument numerous times, and I don't agree with it. But I do think there's a level of discomfort that comes with that, and a growing pain that balances out those scales. I don't think we're anywhere near the tip.
And I don't think either. It'd be nice if we lived in the world where everyone was respectful and everyone. And I think Stephen Fry was trying to get there to where I want a world that's more compassionate. And I don't want
the Oxford manner he kept bringing up, which I thought was very British of him.
Yeah, exactly.
Very perfect. You know what I mean?
And he said something that I think he quoted someone's the ability to gracefully play with ideals. I mean, we do need and I think a part of the political correctness, which I'm afraid of, not only with laws and so forth, is that people being afraid to communicate and share ideals and make mistakes. And I do think that people will be afraid to make mistakes, and it will slow culture and relations down because you don't want to say the wrong thing around a black person or trans person. So this fear of making a mistake will limit you from understanding a trans person or
and to which I would say to wrap that up is we've talked about this many times. One of the main issues currently is that we're having all those conversations publicly. Yeah. And what it boils down to is you need to find places where you connect with real people where you have the leeway to have that conversation. Yeah. And that's what I think the idea of political correctness gives you is an entryway to that conversation to get intimate enough to have the uncomfortable conversations. I ask a lot of uncomfortable comments and questions about like religion, for example, all the time because I'm not religious, and like it's like I can't say those things on the internet. Yeah. I can't say those things on Twitter. I can say them to like 3 or 4 of my coworkers who are of different religions and say, "Hey, man, like I'm not trying to be a dick. Like, I just like, what the fuck is Ramadan? I have no clue.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I guess that's my advice to everybody is step first with political correctness.
Yeah, and
then as you establish an intimate relationship, you'll understand why they asked you to be that way.
Yeah, and you know. As I'm like on this, I'm like on that Stephen Fry zone where I'm a liberal, I'm a soft liberal, but I'm still a lefty. I just think that I do get worried when we're like slapping it. We can't just have a conversation and we got to slap a bill and law and thing. I do think things get scary with that. That's
I agree. Put it this way, I guess like my hair is not yet raised in that way. I will. If that starts to become a trend, we have a podcast. We'll certainly address it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will change my views. So that's this week's LATe debate. Arguably the best one we've had thus far.
Yeah.
Do we have time to even breeze through the rest of the stuff? We're at like an hour 15.
Yeah, we're at an hour 15. We should probably do something for a close.
All right, we'll close. Usually we do a final 5 things, and we usually do content recommendations. We're trying to do those more often. We're going to do 5 content recommendations to blend those 2 segments and get the fuck out of here so that we don't keep you guys too long. Yeah. I know Chris got dates and shit. Yeah. Hey, single nigga. You got any content you want to plug before I get into the rest?
The only thing I have to plug is the new episode of the new season of 13 Reasons Why. Ooh. Do not fucking watch that show.
Really?
I hate every part of that show.
Did you see the first one?
I did see the first one, and I was like, by the end of it, I was like, how's there this many issues in one high school? It's just too over dramatic. Everyone's a little bitch in that show.
There's no second book either. That's what confused me about the second season.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't enjoy it. It's like in like for certain like how diabolical some of these high schoolers are. It's like that doesn't happen. These are like obviously adult traits written into teenagers. It's like, yeah, maybe one of these things will happen in the high school, but all these things happen in high school. I can't watch it, and I can't watch over dramatic. Yeah, Degrassi
is just like I've watched Degrassi for 20 seasons or whatever it's been. It's just like there's no way all that would happen in the same high school.
Yeah,
like 38,000 teen pregnancies, 6 school shootings.
Come on, we better right.
Yeah,
we better hurry up with these because our battery's dying.
Fair, blow through them. Deadpool 2, you catch it?
No, I haven't yet, but it's on my list.
No spoilers, but surprisingly heartwarming. I love Deadpool, very self-aware, very self-deprecating. Only things I'll note on this: Ryan Reynolds makes a lot of like self-aware self-references, and I think Ryan Reynolds thinks he's hotter than he is. Ryan Reynolds should probably realize he's gotten a little old. He wasn't looking like old school Ryan Reynolds.
He's still out there killing it though.
Oh, I'm sure he killed it. Ryan Reynolds is still like a hard 10. But, like, he's no longer the 11 he once was. Also, Terry Crews needs more screen time. I'm just going to leave it at that because I want to ruin the movie for you. But I was pumped Terry Crews was in it. His interview about it, he seemed so happy to be in it. I was disappointed he was in it for so short. New Queer Eye. Have you caught this? Nah. I'm guessing now.
Oh, there we go. That's the battery.
Sorry, YouTube. You just lost us.
Yeah. I've never watched the other one.
I never really was into the old Queer Eye. New Queer Eye is actually, if you like any sort of those like rehabilitation, remodel, like, so they like now they all like of the 5 guys, they all kind of especially like one does wardrobe, one does like actual like apartment renovation, one does food, one does culture. That's kind of a cool show. They have an interesting episode with a cop, and then a very, very heartwarming season finale with a bunch of firefighters and gay dudes. Where can you go wrong? There's lots of puppies. The Obamas just signed a multi-year deal for Netflix.
Yeah. And a lot of right-wingers are trying to boycott Netflix and all this shit. It's a big controversy, but I think it's going to be Hollywood Obama, man.
I mean, if you didn't see that coming, you wildin'.
Yeah, I think it's going to be just similar to the feel of Letterman's new show.
Really?
I do. That's what I got the sense.
I haven't read a lot about it, but I'm thinking more something like TED Talky, motivational. Like,
well, that's really what that is with Letterman. We can add Letterman's. My next guest is very good. It's what Letterman I feel like always wanted to do, to really go into celebrities, get a get a foundation of who they are, what they stand for, and then go into some of the things that they are doing in the world. It's really good.
I agree with that. And the last thing I want to plug is Break, which is Michelle Wolf's new Netflix show. It's gonna be a weekly. I really want Netflix like live content to start like catching on, but I don't know how that works or how you build a library. I'm curious to see the evolution of that.
Yeah.
So I'm rooting for Michelle Wolf. Obviously, we talked a lot about our White House Correspondents' Dinner, and she's the shit.
She killed it.
So hope to see that. And look for our next episode to feature a guest we plugged last week. So the music from last week, if you dug that, you can buy it straight from our SoundCloud now. I'll put the link on there.
Oh, dope.
Right on that episode. So if you dug that, you can buy it right off that. We'll have Jackie Campbell herself here in quote-unquote studio next week.
The Fire Studio.
She better not blow me off because now we've plugged this officially. Yeah. And go check out her new EP, the J Key EP, available on iTunes, Spotify, a whole bunch of other places, wherever you find your music. It's pretty fucking dope if you're into the girl pop ballad kind of thing. Yeah. Lots of really fucking emo-y, but with some kick.
Yeah, dope. I love that deathbed joint. That was hot.
I was curious how you'd feel about it because I feel like that's not musically like your lane.
I'm a geek. Yeah, I'm all over the place, dude.
You dug that? All right, cool. Hey, there we go. Hey, I'm gonna buy you a copy of that. We'll get you a signed copy.
No doubt.
Hey, all right. Till next time.
Don't
be a dickhead.
Peace.
She ain't no feeling because we ain't speaking, but she don't even call them nigga. She don't get nasty whenever I see her. She try to suck all them niggas. Cause you been doing business with the ops. Fuck you and all them niggas. We gon' keep riding around with them gloss until we find them niggas.